our first story, government has set itself the first quarter of 2018 to clear its long-standing debt to the energy sector. The debt, estimated at about 10 billion cedis, has been blamed for the many challenges plaguing the country's banking sector, with fears some of the banks could collapse under the weight of government's indebtedness. Speaking at the inauguration of the governing board of the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, President Akufo-Addo assured the energy sector bond issued recently forms part of a long-term strategy to address the issue.
One of the most notable functions, as seen by most Ghanaians, to be effectively discharged by the PURC, has to do with the review of utility tariffs, most often than not in an upward manner. It would appear that the other functions, primarily to do with the protection of the interests of the consumer and the delivery of quality service by utility providers, have been largely shirked by the PURC. This perception can no longer be allowed to fester. It must change. As the newly constituted board, and in accordance with Act 538, the Ghanaian people demand that you protect their interests as well. In consonance with Section 13 of the Act, I urge you to ensure that where a public utility provider fails to meet any required standard of performance, it is appropriately and duly sanctioned. One of the most notable functions, as seen by most Ghanaians, to be effectively discharged by the PURC, has to do with the review of utility tariffs, most often than not in an upward manner. It would appear that the other functions, primarily to do with the protection of the interests of the consumer and the delivery of quality service by utility providers, have been largely shirked by the PURC. This perception can no longer be allowed to fester. It must change. As the newly constituted board, and in accordance with Act 538, the Ghanaian people demand that you protect their interests as well.
Chairman of the PRC board, Michael Opam, said the commission will ensure greater operational efficiency to clear the debt.
We wish to assure you, Mr. President, and the entire nation, that we accept the challenge and will work tirelessly to justify the appointment to this position of trust. We would uphold the key pillar of the Commission, which is the rather onerous task of balancing the interests of investors and consumers in the electricity and natural gas as well as water sectors. Some areas of focus will be the lingering energy sector debt and consumers' demand for quality of service from utility service providers. While government works to clear the legacy debts, we will chart a direction that will stop the accrual of further debts. We will demand greater operational efficiency and ensure a higher standard of performance of the utility companies to ensure consumers get reasonable value for their money. Mr. President, the PURC Act requires this institution to be independent. However, we shall be guided by the overall socio-economic policy of government in the performance of our work.
A founder and leader of the National Democratic Party, Nana Konadu Rawlings, wants the National House of Chiefs to be reconstituted and renamed to reflect the important contribution of Queen Mothers. She says reconstituting it as a House of Chiefs and Queen Mothers would ensure that women are partakers in decision-making within the traditional setting. Speaking at a symposium on women empowerment on Monday, the former First Lady noted that it was time answers were sought for the slow pace of the Affirmative Action Bill. Nancy Emefajiradozi was there and has more in this report.
The symposium was organized as part of activities marking the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. NDP founder Nana Akufo-Addo Agyeman-Rawlings bemoaned the situation where women were left out in some key decision-making bodies, especially at the traditional level.
Today, the consequence of this colonial strategy has permeated every level of society. If culturally we refer to nature as asasiya, and women are held in reverence spiritually and culturally, why the discontent and the disconnect in our contemporary society where women are treated like second-class citizens? In the House of Chiefs, which should be renamed the House of Chiefs and Queen Mothers, really. Clearly, there is a gender imbalance that did not originate from our culture at all. There was an imposition or a shift that caused this imbalance over time, and therefore affirmative action can begin to correct this imbalance as well.
Ghana is currently ranked 150 out of 185 in the Interparliamentary Union ranking on women representation in Parliament across the world, with just 35 women in Parliament. Speaker of Parliament Professor Michael Quay notes that the Affirmative Action Bill must be made mandatory and made to be relevant to ensure that women's participation in politics is heightened.
So we must now concentrate of devising modalities for ensuring representation of women as a whole. The strategies are varied, and you can definitely find a number that will suit a particular nation. But one thing is that it is doable, and when it happens, you will get some 40%, and you will move to 50%, and you soon realize that you even can go more, and nobody should feel worried that the women are more. They are Ghanaians.
The event was on the theme Women Empowerment. How is it critical to national development?
Motorists and commuters using the alternative route from the southern part of the country to the north are demanding an additional ferry at Yeji in the Brunhafo region to ease movement. So you know, the bridge linking the south to the north, the Yape and Buipe bridges, have been closed down for repair works. Economic activity has been brought to a halt as vehicles are moving at a slow pace because only one ferry is being used to carry vehicles and motorists. Some of the affected have been speaking with Joy News' Hashmin Mohammed.
It's been 6 days since the closure of the Buipe and Yape bridges linking the southern part of the country to the northern regions for major rehabilitation work to commence. This is the third major rehabilitation works by the Ghana Highway Authority for these two bridges this year alone, which poses as a threat to pedestrians and motorists. There are no signs of construction equipment at the two bridges to start the rehabilitation works, which had been cited as the reason by the Ministry of Roads and Highways for the closure. Several articulated trucks carrying perishable goods and animals heading to the northern regions and other neighboring countries are parked here without any success of crossing the bridge. Some of the stranded passengers and drivers have been sharing their frustrations with Joy News.
I'm from Kumasi to Burkina Faso. So
when we got here, they didn't tell us anything. We're not told the bridge is broken or there is something wrong with it. More than 5 days we are here. We don't have food or water.
I don't know what we're doing. And Adrian Krase Yenya Binto, in Sukrase Yenya Binom.
Ya Bokato diesel Abedruano. Yenhusanenya Ebedada Eka, as a society.
For those of us who have spent on fuel to get here, we do not know what to do. The alternate route is also very far away. How then do we get fuel? We are pleading that at least those over here should be allowed to cross the bridge.
A assemblyman for the Buipe area, Alhassan Seydou Lampo, who who has been witnessing the frustrations of the passengers, said several of the stranded passengers have fallen sick since the closure of the bridge.
They are stranded, they are hungry, and some of them they carry perished goods. So they are spoiling. There's a lot of women who are crying here because their goods is spoiled. They have to throw everything away. How are they going to make accounts? And this is a traditional route. Somebody will go from country to country, and you expect them to play here for 5 days. The other time when it happened, they kept some plates.
For Joy News, Hashmin Mohammed reports from Bupe.
Well, the closure of the 2 bridges in the northern region could cause the prices of some foodstuff to go up here in Accra, with implications for how much you pay for your lunch. Agricultural Market Information Service provider Isoko explains the closure of the Bupe and Yape bridges could have a direct bearing, as it is likely to increase the cost of transportation. Already some onion sellers are said to have increased their prices, with the vice chairman of the Greater Accra Onion Sellers Association, Salisu Mashood, arguing the truck drivers are spending more on fuel. Some of the drivers are complaining about the terrible nature of the alternate routes. Joining us, Maxwell Agwagba has more.
The closure of the Bupe and Yape bridges has already taken a toll on the transportation of food items such as onions and yams here at this market. We are told that the price of a bag of onion has actually shot up from 200 Ghana cedis to 220 Ghana cedis.
For a week ago, onion hasn't been coming. There isn't much supply of onion. So due to that, I mean, the price has increased. It has gone up a little bit. I don't know whether it's because of the dam that was broken. So there hasn't been much. Yeah, so there hasn't been much cars coming, onion cars coming. So the price has increased. It has gone up for a while. And previously we sell it 200 Ghana cedi for a bag of onion.
Okay.
Yeah, for a bag. But for now, it has gone up more than that.
Like how much are you selling?
Now it is 220.
Well, some of the people I've been interacting with here at the onion market tell me that they are sometimes made to pay bribes before they are made to cross the bridge, which has been closed down. I'm here to meet the vice chairman of the Greater Accra Onion Sellers Association, Salisu Mashood, to find out from him whether these allegations have come to his attention.
One thing is, when they've closed Yape Road, everybody knows that they closed Yape. But nobody should stand there, collect bribe for the drivers to enter those roads. But if the drivers will pay bribe, they will enter inside. If they enter inside, then they will arrest the driver again. How do you manage?
They open the bridge for them?
Yes, they open the bridge for them. Instead of the bridge has been closed. The Yape road, not the Bupe. The Bupe one has damage already. But the Yape one, they can pass through the Yape, they will get some route. They pay 1 million, that's 100 Ghana cedis, for them to pass on the bridge. But if they pass on the bridge, they will be arrested again. How do you manage to pass the bridge? So those people are those people standing there collecting the bribe, who told them to stand there? Who told them to stand there? So it creates a lot of trouble over there.
Some of the drivers here are complaining bitterly that they've been compelled to use different routes to get to their destination. One of them, Mohammed Yusuf, tells me a journey that usually takes 2 days now takes 4 days.
From Ajasikan to Timpoko here, it's not good at all. It is far, but you know that now like this, the roadway, every day you are passing, you know that road simple past this one. But this one there is photos, and there is some place who rain. If the rain fall like this, the water there inside. If you enter your car or down or go touch the down before you can feel remove inside the water. That day we can feel if you are Tamale, if you are Kulgungu border, you can feel take 2 days and come Accra here. But this road here unless 4 days.
Watching Journey's Prime, we're taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin, Tema police to prosecute driver from whose truck a giant boulder crashed a BMW saloon car on Sunday, killing 2 of the occupants, and the arrest of a pastor on the orders of the Ashanti Regional Minister for the noise pollution caused by his church has revived the debate about noise pollution and the role of the Environmental Protection Agency.
The Constitution gives you the power to have a citizen's arrest. And so not just arrest, but you need to be very careful because the person might be dangerous. But then everyone has that mandate to have a citizen's arrest.
Stay tuned, we'll be back in a bit. The police in Tema are set to prosecute the driver from whose truck a boulder crashed a BMW saloon car, killing 2 of its occupants on the Tema Flower Road on Sunday. Charges including insecure loading will be preferred against the driver who was carting rocks from Shire Hills to the Tema port as part of the ongoing expansion projects there. Tema Regional MTTU Commander Chief Superintendent Joseph Osu Bempa says an attempt by the truck driver to avoid running into the BMW saw the truck overturning. Now he joins us on the telephone line now. Good evening to you, Chief Superintendent. Hello, good evening to you, Chief Superintendent Joseph Osu Bempa.
Good evening, sir.
All right. So we're told that 2 people died in this accident, this unfortunate accident on the Accra Tema Flower Road. Do we know of any other casualties?
No, we have the 2 casualties there. The unfortunate incident, the 3rd person survived.
So there were 3 people in the
vehicle.
Have you been able to identify this driver?
Yes, the driver is in custody at the Committee 1 Regional MTTD.
Now, please explain to us how exactly this happened.
Eyewitnesses at the scene said that there was a saloon car that was ahead of the BMW that was involved in the unfortunate incident. But they got to a place where cattle were crossing the road. So the vehicle ahead of the BMW applied the brakes in order not to hit the cattle and cause another accident. So the BMW, in order to avoid the first vehicle, also veered from the outer lane to the inner lane and also stopped suddenly in front of the truck. I think the truck driver, sensing danger, decided to use the pavement. So when one side of the vehicle climbed the pavement, because there were stones in it, it tilted the vehicle and it fell flat on the BMW. That's what happened.
Now, you're indicating that the driver is going to be charged. What exactly are his charges again?
They are charging the driver for insecure loading, then careless and inconsiderate driving, because if you are driving, you are supposed to be very observant. The first offense, because the vehicle had no, they removed the cover, the gate. They removed the gate so that, and I'm told it's a harbor policy. I don't know who formulated that policy. So they said it's a harbor policy and that all the trucks bringing the boulders are supposed to remove the gate for easy loading or offloading, which is an offense. So I've told them that they shouldn't ply the road again until they fix all the gates to the truck back. Tomorrow, God willing, I'll be there myself and I'll make sure that all those drivers have discussed with them and they have agreed. So I don't expect them to be back on the road.
So have you checked today that to ensure that they were not actually on the road?
In fact, today we were on the road. We didn't see them. But as I've already indicated, tomorrow we'll be there from morning to evening. In fact, I called the transport officer. I've had discussion with him, and he agreed that he was not going to allow the people to go without the gate. So I don't expect them to come, because if they do, we'll cause the arrest and we detain the vehicles. That will hamper the way that they are doing. But I think the human lives are more important than whatever work that is being carried out. So that is our main consideration. Safety of our road users is of paramount importance to the Regional Motor Traffic and Transport Department.
How about the cattle that you're saying that were part or responsible for this accident?
Yes, you see, there are lots of cattle in and around Tema. I don't know why a metropolis you have that problem. We have had several incidents with cattle. You go in for the owners, they will claim that they never own those cattle. That has been the excuse. Because if the vehicles cause damage, extensive damage to other people's vehicles or property, and they know if you sell the cattle, you cannot even pay for the cost, they will always deny. So what we intend doing is that we liaise with the TMA so that we have a plan of making sure that we remove the nuisance from Tema, because Tema is a metropolis, and you are driving in town and you see cattle, in fact, it's an eyesore. They have been causing a lot of problems, and this one has persisted for a long while, and I think it's about time that we did something about it.
All right, thank you very much, Chief Superintendent Joseph Owusu Bempa. He is the MTTU commander for Tema. Youth of the Andani Gate in the Dagbon chieftaincy crisis are vowed to resist any attempt by government to impose a yana on the Dagbon kingdom. The youth at a news conference in Tamale accused government of using the Northern Regional Minister Salifu Said to perpetrate its agenda. A report by Martina Bugri.
The news conference was mainly a reaction to a demonstration held in Yendi last week, calling for a lasting solution to the Dagbon crisis, which the Andani youth said was sponsored by government. Spokesperson Bashiru Dabali warned that any attack on the Gbewa Palace, as it happened in 2002, will be met with swift response.
We caution the MPP officials in the northern region that they should not think that they can manipulate the process once again, like the MPP attempted doing in 2002 in order to pave the way for the funeral of Muhammad Abdullah to be performed in the Gbewa Palace. We shall resist this by any means necessary. We would like to state emphatically that 2017 or 2018 will not be like 2002. If there is any attack on the Gbewa Palace and the Kampakwena, our response will be swift.
Mr. Dabali questioned why the youth are calling for the funeral of the Yana when there are some 5 mandatory funerals which need to be performed before Yana's funeral. He called on government to rather concentrate on finding the killers of Yana rather than meddling in chieftaincy matters.
We are indeed amazed at the petitioners' obsession with the performance of the funeral of Yana Yakubu Andani II. As indigenes of Dagbon, they should know that before the funeral of Yana is performed, there should be the full complement of chiefs whose presence is a customary requirement for the performance of the funeral.
You're watching Join This Round. We're taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin, economists are hailing the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana's further reduction in the policy rate to 20%. And then there's also talk of the incident involving Starbowl, which happened over the weekend. Stay tuned.
Hello, good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining me on Business. Now, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has reduced the policy rate by a significant margin. This is the first time in several years the policy rate has dropped that low. The committee reduced its key lending rates by some 100 basis points to 20% from 21%. Addressing the media, Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, attributed the reduction to what he describes as favorable economic outlook for the rest of the year.
As the central bank and the lender of last resort to the financial system, if a bank has liquidity challenges, they are allowed to borrow from the central bank, because that's one of the functions that a central bank is supposed to play. And so long as the bank has the securities to back that borrowing as collateral, we do extend that liquidity support to the bank. I think that the situation has improved significantly from the beginning of the year, where banks were in very serious need of liquidity. At least over the last 2 months, we have not seen that type of pressure coming in. So there are improvements in that as well. Now let me move on to Uche on fragility of the banking system improving. I think the two issues are related. The fact that non-performing loans have marginally improved, I think that improves the issue of resilience of the banking sector. At the same time, remember that we had requested quite a number of banks to put into place recapitalization plans as far back as April.
Meanwhile, economist with Dagbon, Courage Mate, in an interview with Joy Business, has been assessing the reasons behind the policy rate cut and also commented on government's way of handling the debt situation.
Without a monetary stimulus, that confidence cannot be realized in terms of growth. And if you consider the fact that the main reason why you want to tighten the monetary regime is inflation risk, that same risk is now declining, then you would want to lower or stimulate the real sector of the economy by reducing the policy rates.
Let's come to the governor's response to some of the issues, and another one which I know will stimulate some debate has to do with the public debt. I mean, over the period, we've seen some significant borrowings by government. Government says they are doing what they call the debt reprofiling, but the governor sought to agree with this argument that some of these policy measures has indeed led to that marginal increment in the public debt. What do you make of the governor's explanation to this issue about the performance of the public debt?
Well, I think it was apt. He cited the fact that in the third quarter of this year, we finally paid the first Eurobond we took, and so that would have reduced our total debt commitment. Having said that, I think one thing we also need to understand is that the size and the rate of increase in your debt portfolio takes its roots in the size of the fiscal or budget deficit. So if you run a very wide budget deficit, you need to borrow significantly to continue to fund this funding gap. Currently, we have a primary surplus of 0.2% of GDP. Now, the more you run a primary surplus, the lower will be your rate of debt accumulation. And interestingly, when you look at last year's numbers, the rate of debt accumulation was 26%. As we speak, the rate of debt accumulation is about 13%. You will see that the increase in the debt portfolio has slowed down because fiscal consolidation is gaining roots. And we have arrived at a surplus balance or primary balance position.
Away from the central bank, domestic carrier Dagbon could struggle to regain public confidence in their operations. Those are concerns of some industry players that Joy Business has been engaging with. These concerns have been influenced by the weekend's emergency, which left 5 passengers with minor injuries. This was after the aircraft skidded off the runway at the Kotoka International Airport as it attempted to take off. For many, this might not be good for the airline, as this is the third major challenge that has hit the airline in 3 years. Sheila Tamaklo spoke with officials of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority at the airport.
So many things are circulating. What exactly happened?
The aircraft was lined up for takeoff, and as soon as it was cleared for takeoff, the pilot increased the power to takeoff setting, and then the aircraft started veering off the runway. The aircraft never took off, but maybe some passengers or some eyewitnesses are giving the account that it went into the air, simply because when it veered off the runway, the grassy part of the airport is quite bumpy, and that I've counted for the ups and downs, but it actually didn't go in the air.
The suspension of activities came from the part of the airline themselves, but from the regulatory aspect, from the regulators, what actions are you going to take against this particular airline?
We are still investigating, and fortunately for us, Dagbon has only one aircraft in operation, and that crashed yesterday, was involved in the accident yesterday. So automatically they wouldn't be able to operate. But we're investigating further. If we find out the real cause and it is due to the type of aircraft, then we would have to ground that particular type of aircraft till that problem is rectified.
Behind me is the Dagbon Kumasi-bound aircraft that was reported to have skidded off the tarmac over the weekend. So the aircraft is currently resting in the bushes where it finally settled after having skid off the tarmac. Now, according to reports, all 65 passengers, however, managed to disembark safely, even though 5 of them were injured but have been treated. But then the concern here has become the fact that as a nation, currently we have just 2 airlines operating all the local routes that we have internally here. Now, with Dagbon suspending its operations, the question has become, how would the only airline that is left, which is Africa World Air, cope with the pressure of passengers? The Director General, Simon Alute, has been sharing some insights on how this is going to work out. According to him, very soon there will be a number of airlines that will be coming on board to solve the problem.
Already, the other local operator is a bit overstretched. They are doing flights to all the airports, going to Lagos, Abuja, and early next month they are starting flights to Monrovia. So they might not be able to increase their frequency of flights to mop up the extra passengers Dagbon will have picked. So luckily, there are others, the other operators, Ghana registered carriers. One recently had its air operator certificate, and they've expressed interest to also commence domestic air services. That's DAC Airlines. The others also going through certification, and once they also come on board, there will be additional capacity to cope with the increasing domestic air travel. Dagbon itself has indicated suspension of their operations for a while, whilst they reorganized and get additional aircraft to support their operations.
Now, President Akufo-Addo has re-emphasized his government's commitment to easing the cost of doing business in the country. According to him, government is rolling out several initiatives that should ultimately create an enabling environment for businesses to achieve this and its associated economic benefits. He was speaking at the maiden edition of the Chamber Business Awards, organized by the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The maiden edition of Chamber Business Awards attracted hundreds of private sector businesses, some of whom were duly recognized for their hard work and efforts at enhancing economic growth. Trade Minister Alan Chemanting, CEO of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, UFI Grant, and several captains of industry were also present to grace the occasion. In an address, President of the Chamber, Nana Appiah Ejei Dankawoso I, called for support as the Chamber organizes industries along the value chains towards industrialization.
We expect government to soon actively and productively engage the private sector, including financial players, to address the challenge of high interest rates. We are also expecting that flagship policies and programs, including the One District, One Factory and the stimulus package, will be effectively implemented to achieve their overall objective. In conclusion, Mr. President, the Chamber, with over 250 years of providing business support services, has built a strong reputation and goodwill with state and non-state actors, both local and international, and it is this invaluable business endorsement we want to share with our award winners.
The Minister of Trade and Industry, Alan Chemanting, also delivered an address. President Akufo-Addo re-emphasized his government's commitment to easing the cost of doing business in the country. He said government is rolling out several initiatives to ultimately create the enabling environment for businesses.
This is the kind of leadership and collaboration that is required collectively to build Ghana beyond aid. And I encourage business people to take advantage of these opportunities that have been created by government. I recall that at the National Policy Summit of the Ministry of Trade and Industry in August 2017, the President of the Chamber, in his remarks on behalf of the private sector, indicated the readiness of businesses to take advantage of government's policies and programs, and underscored the importance of organizing our industries along industrial value chains to identify the linkages and aggregators and ensure that production of goods or products meet the needs of the market. This will result in massive employment, production of high-quality goods, and efficiency in the system.
Several industry actors received awards for their dedicated services. Chief Executive Officer of Traffic's Catering Services, Bella Ahu, emerged the Chamber Businesswoman of the Year, while Issa Wudragu of B. Bovid Limited emerged the Chamber Businessman of the Year. He later shared some thoughts with Joy Business.
I'm so happy because it also shows an evidence of what we are doing on the ground, and it's going to inspire me more and my colleagues and also the young generation, especially in the agriculture sector, to showcase that we can do more. And I invite the whole nation and elsewhere people to come and see what I'm doing on the ground so that we know that we have it and we can do more.
The Chamber of Commerce promises to make the annual event Ghana's most sought-after business awards on the corporate calendar. And on that note, we end tonight's business news. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. We are here for more business news. Log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Have a good evening.
Information Minister Mustafa Hamid has since indicated government has no plans to legalize homosexuality.
Government's position on homosexuality is that it's unacceptable now in Ghana. It is, as far as we are concerned, it is something that is not accepted by law in Ghana and against the customs and traditions of the Ghanaian people. And since law is premised on custom, what it also means is that we cannot make it legal at this stage, considering that the customs and traditions of the people abhors homosexuality.
And there are some that say that the president's admission that pressure could provoke action could encourage such groups and that he failed to state his position courageously.
Said it is a socio-cultural issue, and the point I'm reiterating to you that it is a socio-cultural issue.
But when he was pressed on about what could cause a change of that illegality, he said once pressure is mounted, it could provoke action.
Yes, every so often cultures change, and cultures change because pressure comes from the citizenry that we have gotten to a stage in our cultural development where we ought to change this culture. And
for those.
Well, most members of the public John you spoke with are against the practice and wouldn't want to see it legalized.
Well, somehow I would say his response was right, because first of all, he said he wants to, ask the opinion of the people over here. So if the people say where they want it, then he hasn't got anything to say. He has to either approve it or disapprove it. But it's up to the people. But to me, Africans are not used to this kind of system. So to me, if we're to left to me alone, I would say it shouldn't be happening at all. You see, we only know of a relationship between man and woman, not man and man or women and women.
What the president has said, he said it that we Ghanaians, we send it there, so whatever we need here, he will do it for us. We say we don't need a homosexual, so he won't do it for us. But when we say we need it, he will do it.
He being the first gentleman of the country, we could have said no to that, because it is not right for our constitution for that thing to be legalized in the country. It shouldn't be legal in Ghana, because even the Bible itself is against that. That so far as the Bible is against that, why should a man and man go and have sex and woman go and have sex?
It shouldn't be legalized, because I don't see any sense of the president saying yes or no or responding to that action, but it should be no, because the Bible is even against it and the Constitution is against it. It should stand and say no. It should be brave and say no, because Ghana being a gay or homosexual country will be bad.
He should have said no, because we don't want homosexual in Ghana here.
The sentiments in the Ashanti regional capital Kumasi were similar.
You can see the public outcry about what the president, if you analyze critically what the president said, where when he was quizzed, he said that it is bound to happen. I have schooled, and I, at least with my little understanding of English, if somebody says something is bound to happen, you understand it yourself. It means it will happen, but it's just a matter of time.
The same question was posed to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, but Nana-Addo was flexible to the sense that if they organize something, they push in his presence, he will admit it. So it's something that he must come out and apologize.
It's not, it wasn't concluding. So I said it is not bad. So that's my mind. Generation, another generation is coming. So I know that in that generation are coming to force that we Ghanaians need that. Yeah.
The president's statements shows if a group should agitate for that, it will be accepted. I disagree with him. We cannot accept that.
This is Joy News Prime.
The recent arrest of a pastor in Kumasi on the orders of the Ashanti regional minister over the nuisance caused by his congregation has got many victims of noise pollution talking about the phenomenon and the role of the Environmental Protection Agency. Now, Simon Osei Mensah stormed the Bethel Ministry's watch night service on Saturday morning in the company of the police and ordered its head pastor's arrest, claiming that the church was making too much noise. The pastor has since been released, and the police say the issue is being investigated. But the EPA says incidents involving churches tops the complaint filed with it. Public Relations Officer Angelina Tutua Mensah concedes the authority has not been able to adequately address all the complaints and advise citizens on one of the options available to them is causing the arrest of noise pollutants.
What you can do if someone is creating noise and it's unbearable, the first thing, have a friendly chat. And I know it doesn't work anyway. But then you write to the Environmental Protection Agency or the Assembly, copy to the police that this is the situation. You state the hours the person creates that noise. You bring it to the Environmental Protection Agency or the Assembly. You need to state a landmark where the incident has been happening. And when it does happen, the Environmental Protection Agency or the Assembly will then come and set up a noise monitor for a week. If it's in the night, it will actually set the noise monitor at the point of the noise and monitor the decibels. And so after a period, there's a calculation they do. Then they write to whoever is creating that noise to stop. If the person does not, then they give the person enforcement notice. Sometimes it becomes a court issue. So basically, this is the procedure that one has to go through.
So if I don't have any monitor, can I go to a noisemaker and then arrest a person? Someone playing loud music at church?
Yeah, the Constitution gives you the power to have a citizen's arrest. And so not just arrest, but you need to be very careful because the person might be dangerous. But then everyone has that mandate to have a citizen's arrest. Yeah. We have a lot of complaints on noise. It exceeds all the complaints that we get. Noise is the highest complaint that the Environmental Protection Agency gets each year. See, the noise monitors is one per region, and they are very expensive, they are very sensitive. So sometimes we do a lot of arbitration before, we can go out there and say we are monitoring. But in most cases, we've been able to solve it and giving people that comfort. But I must say that our officers have also gone through some gruesome experiences. Some homes have unleashed dogs on them. Some of them have been suspected as armed robbers. It comes with the risk.
The Social Welfare Department at the Jisu in the Ashanti region is on a search for a mentally unstable mother whose 2 children were seized from her on the Accra-Kumasi highway. District Head Justina Mu says tracing her will help in locating their relatives for resettlement. Ajwa Educhumwa had reportedly been trekking on foot with the toddlers for 3 days when hawkers at the Kubiase toll booth decided to rescue them. Love reporters later on took custody of the children and handed them over, together with their mother, to the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit of the Ghana Police Service. Madam Educhumwa's sudden disappearance again has left police clueless about how to find relatives. Nana Aljuma reports.
Police had initially been reluctant to issue the necessary documents to enable social workers to take full custody of the children. Personnel at the station insisted they were due to close and shut down the office. They also declined to take custody of the mentally unstable mother, who the social welfare needs for investigations. Head of Ejusu Social Welfare Department, Justina Moe, says the office is relying on the public for information on the woman or her relatives.
With your help, so we get the details of the woman, then we liaise with our sister district from where she's coming from. And together, if we can identify her family members, once we get the pictures, if we are able to identify the family members, try to find out if there are responsible family members who can take care of the children. We send the report to a regional director, and based on what directives she gives, that will be the final decision. And they accepted the fact that they could have kept the police woman, the mad woman there, but because they were busy, before they realized the woman had already gone. So I believe by now they are still investigating as to when to get the woman.
Justina Moe says the condition of the children who are now at the Kumasi Children's Home has gradually improved.
The children are doing well in the children's home. For them, they have been secured. They are in good hands.
Nana Ojima reporting.
Well, government has been asked to pay critical attention to mental health delivery in the country. Projects officer at NGO Basic Needs Ghana, Sunday Anaba, says despite improvement in addressing challenges of mental illness, there is more to be done. He made this call at a Daybro of Chiefs and People at Manhian in Accra. Na Anyoko Ajay's report.
Established in 2002, Basic Needs Ghana is a mental health and development advocacy organization that implements and promotes initiatives to transform the lives of people with mental illness or epilepsy by providing access to integrated mental health care, social and economic services in various communities of Ghana. Speaking to Joy News project officer at the organization, Sunday Anaba explained the event is to create awareness and sensitize the community on mental illness.
Oftentimes, people who are suffering from one mental illness or the other are usually stigmatized. You and I know, and we are trying to see how stakeholders in the community can make pronouncements that will look like protecting these people. That if, for instance, a chief or a prominent chief in the community comes out and says that I am with persons with mental illness, and anybody who does this or that against them, I am not going to take it easy. These people will feel that yes, they have support from the community and they will be free to do whatever they want to do. And so that is basically what we want to do here. And you can see we are also looking at this program, using it as an opportunity to sensitize prayer camp leaders, traditional healers, sensitize them that yes, your treatment can be good, you can do this, you can do that, you can pray, you can fast. But please, when people with mental illness come to your end, you have to make referrals to the formal mental health units within the community so that they will also do the medical treatment as well.
Greater Accra Regional Mental Health Coordinator Etonam Blende outlined measures taken by the region to address the challenge.
We have gone ahead to decentralize mental health care in the region. What we have done so far is to ensure that every district is providing some form of mental health services. Even to some districts, they have gone down to the health center level, the chiefs level to provide mental health services. We also envisage and we're taking steps to train all healthcare providers to provide some form of mental health care at every health facility. And that is how far we have come as a district. We have embarked on an intensive public education using the media, community debates like this one, OPDs, churches, mosques, wherever there's gathering, we try to educate the public on how to prevent mental illness, how to identify and where to get help. That is what we have been doing. Currently, our clients also receive some form of community support by the staff visiting them in their homes to bring mental health care to their doorstep.
There was a drama on substance abuse to educate the communities on its effects. Na Anyoko Ejay's report.
A total of 255 million Ghana cedis has been allocated to the various tertiary institutions across the country for priority projects to begin in preparation for the anticipated increase in their intake as a result of government's free SHS policy. That's according to President Akufo-Addo at a graduation ceremony at the University of Education, Winneba. The president, whose speech was read on his behalf by Minister for Planning, Professor George Mbafo, said government has committed itself to the promotion of engineering and technology in the technical universities and the reduction of the subjects studied at the basic level. Richard Kodunako has more.
According to the president, it is true the educational sector is facing challenges, and his administration would deal with such challenges one after the other. In a speech read on his behalf at the congregation of the University of Education, Winneba, by the Minister of Planning, Professor Mbafo, the president indicated government has committed itself for a research fund solely for the funding of specific and relevant research works in the country's research institutions of higher learning. According to him, the draft bill for the establishment of the fund has been completed and stakeholder consultations for their inputs are underway. He says government has committed to changing the curriculum of schools across the country to respond to government projects and the changing needs of the job market.
Government has committed itself to reforming the curriculum at the pre-tertiary level to focus on the 4 R's, namely writing, arithmetic, reading, and the creative arts. We are also committed to the promotion of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In addition to this, we seek to realign all TVET institutions with the Ministry of Education to promote standardization and linkage to technical universities and to position them to be at the forefront of government's one district, one factory. Inevitably, the free SHS policy, which we expect will boost enrollment figures in our senior high schools, will ultimately mean greater demand for tertiary education. As a nation, we must therefore, as a matter of urgency, begin to prepare for the increased numbers, and government is committed to expanding access to tertiary education to accommodate the expected increase in the demand. Chairman, an amount of 255 million Ghana cedis, representing about 32% of the total GET fund allocation this year, has been allocated to the tertiary sector for the implementation of priority projects. We are determined to ensure that Ghanaian citizens who seek higher education in our public universities shall not be deprived of that opportunity.
Acting Vice Chancellor of the University of Education, Winneba, Reverend Professor Anthony Afo-Broni, implored government to grant them more financial clearance to be able to employ more lecturers to meet the needs of their ever-increasing student population.
Mr. Chairman, the increasing number of students enrollment requires a commensurate increase in staff numbers. Over the period, 38 temporary staff, senior member teaching, were appointed to fill vacant positions as a result of retirements, resignations, and vacation of posts at our 4 campuses. We are deeply grateful to the government of Ghana for lending a great support to facilitate teaching and learning in this university by giving financial clearance to us to engage 121 staff by the close of the year. And humbly request that, just like they gave over 400 to the University of Ghana, if they could add 200 more, we will be grateful.
Richard Kwejenyako, Joy News.
The Prime Ministers of Italy and the Netherlands, as well as the Presidents of Estonia and France, are due in Ghana this week, with illegal migration and youth unemployment set to dominate discussions. Director of Communications at the Presidency, Eugene Ahing, tells presidential correspondent Alton Brobe the visit demonstrates Ghana's standing amongst the Committee of Nations.
It's a pretty tight schedule. We have the Prime Minister of Italy coming in tomorrow. We have the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, who is due to be here on Wednesday. We have the Estonian President coming in as well. We have the French President coming in on the 30th. So it's a pretty hectic schedule. But tomorrow, the Prime Minister of Italy would call on the President at the presidency. The two would hold bilateral discussions on how to strengthen the ties of cooperation and the bonds of friendship that exist between the two countries, and basically find other ways by which, or explore other ways through which the two countries can cooperate. So that's basically for the meeting with the Prime Minister of Italy. And subsequently on Wednesday, we have the Dutch Prime Minister coming into town. We have the Estonian President, as I said, coming on Thursday. And then all of them coming to hold bilateral talks with the President here. Basically, at least it's, to me, I see it as a sign of the confidence the world has in our President. At least in the last 11 months, they've all seen the kind of progress Ghana has made. I mean, compared to the numbers we had when we took over in on the 7th of January 2017, compared to the work he's done now, I believe it's an appreciation of the fact that, and a recognition of the fact that they see at least Ghana is moving up. Yes, there's this 5th AU-EU summit. It's something that happens on a yearly basis. This year's edition will be the 5th, and it's being held in La Côte d'Ivoire, God willing, on I think from Tuesday to Thursday. So the President will be in Côte d'Ivoire from Tuesday to Thursday, and then he arrives in Ghana on Thursday for the meeting with Macron, as well as for the meeting with the Dutch Prime Minister and the Estonian President as well. Well, if it comes up, yeah, definitely it's something that would come, because almost every illegal migrant that leaves the shores of our continent for Europe lands up at Lampedusa in Italy. So definitely, I'm sure it will be an issue. But as you said, the President has made it clear that in as much as we would want to halt the illegal migration of our youth, either those who trek the Sahara or even those who want to use the Mediterranean, it's something we have to do. We have to make sure that we improve the conditions of living here, we transform the structures of our economy. It's the only way we can create wealth and prosperity for our people. And even if there are still people who, whether you like it or not, who would still want to make their living elsewhere. If they go to such countries, at least they should be treated with dignity. I'm sure that's something that would come up for discussion between the two leaders.
Reporting for Joy News from the Flagstaff House, Elton Brobe.